everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. On today's show, we have Lookman to Manchester United. We have Osimhen to join Lookman at Manchester United. We have Trincao. Does Amorim want to bring Trincao from Sporting Lisbon to Manchester United? It could be a cheaper option. He ripped it up for Portugal in the international break. Could that be a good option for Manchester United? We have Chris Rigg apparently being scouted by Manchester United. Really interesting in bringing him in. Talks of Tyler Diblin last night, another young player in Chris Rigg. You've got some experience there with Lookman. You've got some younger players in Chris Rigg. You've got a little bit halfway house there with Trincao. Who do you want to bring into Manchester United in the summer? It's going to be a very interesting summer transfer window, to say the least. Paul Parker also absolutely slamming Alejandro Garnacho this morning. Do you agree with it? Do you think it's too harsh? I think it's ridiculous, to be honest with you, but get your comments in down below. Definitely not holding back on his comments on Alejandro Garnacho. We've got an injury update from Ahmad as well. Hopefully not rushing him back too quickly, but he's way ahead of schedule of when he's going to come back from injury. We're going to see him before the end of the season, fingers crossed. It's looking good on Ahmad. And get all your comments in. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit a like on the video. It is Wednesday morning. We're midway through the week and we have a lot of news to get into. So thank you everyone for joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm in a good mood this morning. Do you want to know why I'm in a good mood? Because I personally think that Lookman is the exact kind of player that Manchester United should be going for. Experienced, quality football player. He's got pedigree, he's been around the block, and he's a very good footballer. Okay, yeah, he's not the next Neymar, but he will work hard and he will play well, and he's got that experience. We've got a lot of young players that have got potential, and you think, you know, are they going to reach them heights? This is where the trajectory is. This is where they're projected to be. You bring in someone like Lookman, you know what he is. He's a quality football player that is definitely going to improve our starting 11. Trincao is another player that I'm actually warming to being linked to as well. 25 years old, played under Amorim before, knows the system really well. Another player who is kind of, you know, had that experience under his belt and has still got levels to go up. I really like that idea as well. So I'm happy with certain players that we're being linked to. But let me get the news in around Lookman. So it's coming in from an Italian outlet that Atalanta have put an asking price of £50 million on the 27-year-old forward Ademola Lookman, and interest from Newcastle United and Manchester United is there. So Newcastle also interested in Lookman. No surprises, is the exact sort of player that I would suspect that Newcastle would be interested in. 50 million isn't going to break the bank, and I don't think you'd actually end up having to pay 50 million. I think you'd probably get him for around 40, maybe even with add-ons around 40 million. And I could see him doing really well at Newcastle as well as Manchester United. Manchester United are working to win the race for Ademola Lookman. This summer, Atalanta want 50 million to let him go, and that is coming from Caught Offside as well. So they're putting it out there that the price tag is 50 million. That's a bit expensive for 27. I can already see the comments coming in. Savage says 50 million for a 27-year-old. I don't know. I think you would be able to get him for around 40 with add-ons. We've got a good relationship with Atalanta. I can already see comments saying 27 is not old. I feel like in football, we've got to a place now that anything over 25, people are worried, people are scared. 27 is prime age. 27 is literally the prime age to bring a football player in. We have got a lot of young players. We have got a lot of young talent. We've got a lot of young talent coming through our academy as well. Our academy is thriving right now, and it really does look like there's going to be some good players come out of our under-18s. We need some experience. Like, we are in desperate need of some experience. 27 is not old. 27 is prime. It's like on X Factor, you know, the over 25s category. I used to sit at home watching X Factor back in the day. I don't think it's on TV anymore. And, you know, when they got given the groups, didn't they? It was the girls, it was the boys, it was the groups, and it was like the over 25s. And everyone in the over 25s category, I'd be like, bloody hell, they're getting on a little bit, aren't they? They're a little bit over the hill. Now I'm here, I'm 24 this year, and I'm thinking over 25s isn't actually that old. And in footballing terms, honestly, that is the perfect age, I think, to bring someone in right now. we have got a lot of young players that need some experience around them, need players that have been around the block. I mean, Lookman won Atalanta the Europa League title last year in a final, in a European competition. That's the sort of experience that we need. So this sort of player massively, massively attracts me. I've spoken to Ricky about him. Ricky watches a lot of Serie A. Ricky absolutely loves him. I was getting up as well because I watched, obviously, Lookman when he was in the Premier League. I remember him distinctly for Everton. I remember him distinctly for Fulham. But he also played for Leicester as well. He's played for quite a few clubs, played for Leipzig. And I just was kind of looking at his career over the years. And only being 27 as well, he's been at Everton, he's been at Leipzig, he's been at Fulham, he's been at Leicester, he's gone back to Leipzig, and he's now obviously at Atalanta. So he's been around the block, he's got that experience. There was a little bit of a penalty incident where I think his manager called him the worst penalty taker in the world, but I'm kind of ignoring that because what I see on the pitch is a fearless player that can take players on, that is intelligent on the ball and is going to get you goals in the Premier League. So that's what I like about Lookman. But get in the comments down below what you think. I think 40 million for a player of that quality would actually be a pretty good deal, especially when you're looking at other options that Manchester United are going for. I saw that we were linked to Xavi Simons the other week for 80 million euros. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, and we do not have that to spend on a number 10. We don't. Xavi Simons is a good player, slightly overrated, a good player, but we don't have that to spend. 40 million is kind of the sweet spot. And I know it says 50 million in this report, but I do think we could bargain it down. INEOS have been pretty decent at that. And then you look at a player like Trincao as well, looking like you could get him out of Sporting for around 30, 35 million. That's another one where your ears prick up and you're like, we need quality players on a cheaper price. I was saying how much, my dream, I've said it multiple times, Mbeumo, Cunha, they're my two dreams. But Cunha's going to probably cost you around 60, and Mbeumo's probably going to cost you at least 55. Could you bargain it down? Could you negotiate it a little bit? And also, other clubs are going to be interested in these players. Manchester United, if they have competition from an Arsenal, from a Chelsea, from anyone around that ranks, it's going to be tough for us. We might have Champions League football if we win the Europa League, but it's going to be really tough to battle for these players. So we've got to get creative with it, and we have to bring in forward players that are going to score us goals and are going to contribute, because we have missed that so much. So we've got to get it right. We have Kevin in the chat saying, honestly, 50 million is too much. He would be a good buy if we negotiate it to 35 to 37. Well, there's got to be a bit of there's got to be a little bit of wiggle room. There's got to be a little bit of a negotiation. Like, you never go in at the first price with a player. And obviously Atalanta are going to push it out there that they want the higher end of the scale. And the thing is, what we do know about Atalanta is they don't go cheap. Do you know what I'd be going into that negotiation saying? I'd be going into that negotiation with Atalanta saying, we paid 72 million for Rasmus Højlund. He was probably a 35 million pound player. Do us a little bit of a favour here with Lookman. And I know it doesn't work like that, but Atalanta have had their fair bit of money out of Manchester United over the years. We got Ahmad from Atalanta. I think it was around, a 20 million pound deal, but add-ons took it up to around 40 million, and everyone started saying we paid 40 million for like a 18-year-old at the time, what age Ahmad was when we brought him in. I know he was young. But Atalanta, we've got a good relationship with them. We've given them a fair bit of money in the past. I think it's something that we should definitely keep an eye on moving into the summer. And it's an option I really, really like. Trincao, on the other hand, I know that Goldbridge has spoken about this. Get in the comments down below. Who would you actually prefer? Maybe we should run a poll on this. Who would you prefer, Trincao or Lookman? I know they're slightly different, but they're for the same position in this system. So let's run a poll on that. I want to see what you guys say. I'm already seeing some Trincao shouts coming in. Trincao looks like he's going to be around 35 million. Sporting do need a little bit of money coming into the summer, and Trincao looks like he could be on the move. This is the latest update on Trincao. Barcelona's buyback clause with Sporting for the 25-year-old Portuguese winger Trincao, who's been linked with Arsenal, Newcastle United and Manchester United, ended in June 2024, and that was from Record in Portugal. Record is usually good with Portuguese stuff. They can be a bit hit and miss, but with Portuguese stuff, they're usually quite decent. Newcastle again in the mix. Newcastle are definitely looking for a forward player of that ilk. They're looking at Lookman. They're also looking at Trincao, the same as Manchester United. We're in that market. If Arsenal come into play, I think you'll lose the battle, but I don't see why Arsenal would want him, to be honest with you. Unless it's just kind of like that option around the front line. Mikel Arteta does like a versatile forward, but I think they're going to throw all their money at Alexander Isak, I'm going to be honest with you, and I think they should do that, to be honest. I'm going to be very jealous when they do sign him, if they do sign him. But Trincao, he's worked with Amorim, so you kind of have that advantage. He knows the system. He's 25. I would be lying if I said I'd watched multiple games of his where I'm like confident to say I think he's ready to come in and play for Manchester United. I've watched a lot of Lookman. I know that Lookman is a quality player. Trincao, I've watched him because I've watched Sporting, but I've not specifically had my eyes on Trincao, and he's not massively stood out to me whenever I've watched him where I've thought, let's keep an eye on that player. I've watched him for Sporting when Amorim was managing there and we're linked to Amorim, and I've watched him in a couple of recent Sporting Lisbon games, but nothing, like I would say 20 minutes here and there, no full 90 minutes over a period of time have I had my eyes firmly on Trincao, so I know exactly what he's bringing. He does look, and it's easy to say that when you've not watched loads of a player, he does look like a bright spark, he does look promising. And also for Portugal, in the international break against Denmark, 81st minute he gets subbed on, 86th minute he levels it 3-3 on aggregate, and 91st minute he gives Portugal a 4-3 aggregate lead. So he made a big impact in that game, and we know the Portugal squad is filled with quality players, filled with quality footballers. So for him to come on and make that impact, it's promising. 25, it's a really good age. He's still got levels, he's still got his prime to go into. And for the money that you're going to get for him, that you're going to pay for him, around 35 million, it's good for a player you know that's going to come in and know Amorim's system. You know he's got a good attitude because Amorim wants him. You know he's got the right behaviours because Amorim wants him. All them things. Like when you do background on a player that you're going to bring in for a really important role, because Trincao is someone that's going to contribute to the attacking output. Lookman is someone who's going to contribute to the attacking output. You need to know that they are going to work, because our forward line isn't good enough. We'll see sparks here and there, but Xerxes should be coming on off the bench. Højlund should be coming on off the bench. In my opinion, Garnacho should be coming off the bench. The only two players currently in our forward line that I think are actually good enough to start at a highly competitive level for Manchester United over a consistent period of time are Bruno and Ahmad. Bruno's playing in the pivot and Ahmad's probably going to be a wing back. Our forward line needs work. It needs work. I think Ahmad's better out wide, and I actually think Bruno in the pivot is adjusting really well under Amorim. So we need some quality forward players. You need them to work. Behaviour is massive. Amorim knows Trincao. His mentality is massive. Amorim knows Trincao. The money you're going to bring them in for is quite big as well, because we need to spend on multiple positions. We need a striker. We also need a midfielder. We're also looking at a centre-back. So people say we need a goalkeeper. You can't be affording to go and spend like 80, 90 million on just one player. You need them to work. You need them to be good. On the flip side with Trincao, you're always going to get, if he doesn't hit the ground running straight away, you're always going to get, oh, Amorim's brought him in from Sporting. It's the same as what Erik ten Hag did. Erik ten Hag got so much stick for bringing in Dutch players when the majority of them weren't even Dutch. They were just from the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. Amorim will get that from the British media straight away. But if it's a successful signing, they can't say anything, and we should only be signing him if we think it is going to work. INEOS' recruitment has been pretty decent so far, but we have to get these positions right. We cannot afford, and Amorim said it multiple times, we can't afford mistakes of the past. We cannot afford to bring in another forward player that isn't good enough, whether that be a flop, in terms of we've overspent and they just don't look like they're going to work in the Premier League. We can't have it to be where they're injury prone, because we need someone who's fit and available. We can't have it where, oh, they could be good in a few years. Oh, they've got loads of potential. We've got players with potential. I need players, and I can't make it as clearer than this. I need players coming into that front line that are going to score goals, get assists, and play at an elite level on a consistent basis over the course of next season. That's why I am so hell-bent on an Mbeumo or a Cunha because I know they can provide in the Premier League week in, week out. If they're going to be a bit expensive, Lookman, quality, experienced, I like him. Trincao, Amorim's worked with him. He'll know his levels. He knows what he's like. He's an interesting buy for 35 million. You could probably even go and buy someone else. So these are little... Sometimes you can't always go for the top option, and I understand that in the position we're at Manchester United right now. But you've got to find players that are good enough to come in and compete at that price range that we can afford, to be honest with you. We've got some more super chats in. Glazers Out says, at the moment, I prefer Lookman only for his fearless dribbling and experience, especially if... For example, I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but if Alejandro Garnacho does get moved on in the summer, which I think is quite a strong possibility, you want to replace that flair, you want to replace that fearlessness, you know, someone that's going to go at players, and Lookman definitely does that. Majra Wiwa says, lovely Beth, have a wonderful week, always smile. Thank you very much for the super chat. Patrick Lynch says, factors to consider for targets, age, fee, player profile. Last summer, we kept things close to the chest. Vivell's record is another consideration that will impact who we target. Well, Christopher Vivell is obviously fantastic at scouting young players and talent from them European leagues where the up-and-coming and young up-and-coming players, also tapping into that South American market as well, which is really exciting. Whether Christopher Vivell is the guy that is going to be getting the experienced pros in that can come in and make an instant impact straight away, who knows? He might be. But what I know Christopher Vivell for is scouting young talent for a really good price, and then they come into the football club and they make their name at the football club. For example, you know, like he's done it across Leipzig, he's done it at loads of different places, the Red Bull Group and all sorts of stuff, and he's scouted some really, really promising players that have gone on to have good careers. So he's someone that I'm excited is working in and behind the scenes at Manchester United as well. M. Parker says, you are wise beyond your years. We see your hard work. Thank you very much. That sounds like something I'd get out of a fortune cookie, doesn't it? So thank you for that. I appreciate it. We have... Oh, this is what I mean. Like, you can't say anything nowadays. I'm already seeing comments saying I'm starting with a Garnacho agenda. I do not have a Garnacho agenda. It's like people on yesterday's show saying that Gobridge had a Bruno agenda. Like, just because I don't think Garnacho is currently at this moment at the level to be starting games for like a top 4 side, which is what I want us to be very quickly, doesn't mean I have a Garnacho agenda. I've said he's got potential. I said if it was still an Erik ten Hag system, I would be absolutely like, yes, we have to keep him because I think he's a touchline left winger and I think he's good at that. But I've said it about multiple players in this Manchester United squad. I think they've been over-promoted and overplayed because we don't have a quality depth in our squad. Like, we're 14th in the Premier League for a reason. I'm not putting that on one player, but I think some people think our players are better than what they are. Like I've said multiple times, we've got potential players. We've got players there that can be coming on and making an impact. But when you're looking to be like a competitive top 4 side, you've got to have quality players in your starting 11. And at this moment in time, I don't think Garnacho would be a starter. I also don't think Højlund would be a starter. There's multiple players I don't think would be a starter. Doesn't mean that I think the career's dead and over. It means that the young players that need nurturing and they need to be progressed at the right rate. And I think because we've struggled for any sort of quality, certain players have had to play every game and probably been a little bit over-promoted. That's all it is. It's not an agenda, it's an opinion. And my opinion is, right now, I don't think... If we want to be competing right at the top, there's a lot of players in this team that wouldn't be in the starting 11 for me. That's why we're 14th in the league, because a lot of these players are at the level that we need. And that's the league reflects that. We need some experience as well to help these players. A couple people in the chat saying go and get Jonathan David on a free. Really interesting, Jonathan David. It does save you a lot of money on that striker option, but I just think, is there a reason why no one's gone for him? Like, I feel like every single year, Jonathan David. It's all I hear in the transfer window, but no one's gone and got him. I get now he's on a free, and he's got attributes that I like. But when I've watched him play for Canada, like, I've not been absolutely overly impressed, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's not something I'm sold on, but on a free transfer, if we brought in somebody else, it's definitely something I'd consider. Let me go and get... I mean, people saying I've got a Garnacho agenda. I tell you who has got a Garnacho agenda. I'm going to get this quote up from Paul Parker now before I get into the Chris Rigg stuff. Because I think this is just absolutely like, this is a bit too far. So former United defender Paul Parker on Alejandro Garnacho. He's not playing like an adult, and he's certainly not acting like an adult. And he has to have a good look in the mirror and tell himself he needs to stop thinking about being the next Cristiano Ronaldo. He will never be that, so he has to accept the fact he needs to work hard to get a decent career. I liked him when he came through. He had that Argentinian fire in his belly, which is completely lost. He's let himself and his family down. He's let the club down because he's not taking advantage of the talent he was supposed to have. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to be honest, it's absolutely ridiculous. I understand where he's coming from, but to go out there and say he's let his family down is way too much. Way too much. And I don't think Alejandro Garnacho has lost the Argentinian fire in his belly. And I don't think he's just sitting there putting his feet up and not working on his game and not trying to do the best by his talent. I think Alejandro Garnacho is an extremely hard worker. I think he's working really hard to adapt to Amorim's system, which doesn't naturally suit him, to be honest with you. He's better in a 4-3-3. And I actually think I've seen a lot of improvements with Alejandro Garnacho over the last month or so. I think he's passing it more, especially on that right-hand side. He's getting his head up and looking for the pass more. At first, I remember when he was just ignoring Dorgu's overlap over and over again, and every single opportunity he'd look to shoot. He still has that tendency. It's his natural thought to cut in and shoot and ignore the pass, but he's definitely getting better at it. And I've seen a lot of occasions where he's put a cross into the box and no one's there, and he's looked up and done the right thing and got a cross in. I think there is a player in Alejandro Garnacho. I don't think he's naturally suited to this system. But just because a player is not naturally suited to this system, and at 19, 20 years old, he's taking time to adapt, does not mean he's just sat there not working on his talent and letting his family down. I think that's way too far. I think what's happened with Alejandro Garnacho is, I do think under Ten Hag, he probably got a little bit ahead of himself. He was the main guy. Ten Hag would start him every single game. You know, the fan base fever Garnacho, everyone was saying he should have got the number 7. Everyone was comparing him to Ronaldo, and he probably did get a little bit ahead of himself. But I don't think his work ethic has ever dropped. I always think he works hard whenever he steps onto that pitch. I do think that. I think sometimes defensively he can be better, but I don't think that's from a lack of trying. I just think he's just naturally not that strong. But I do think he always gives everything. He doesn't always make the right decision, but his work ethic, I do think is there. Under Amorim, I think he got brought down to earth a little bit. I think he was probably shocked when Amorim, dropped him out of the squad for the City game, and he was on the bench for a lot of games. But Amorim, as a lot of journalists have said, he's starting to warm to Garnacho. 2 players got dropped for that derby. Rashford and Garnacho. One player ended up getting dropped for the foreseeable and is now at a different club. Garnacho has worked his way back into the starting 11. He's not a consistent member of the starting 11, but he's in there for them. I'd say he's in the starting 11 more than he's not in the starting 11. And whether he's in the starting 11 when everyone's fit, that's a question I ask for you guys. I don't think he is in the starting 11 when everyone's fit. But he's worked hard and he's started to adapt, and I definitely think he's improving. And Amorim has said he's improving. He's got potential. I think saying he's let his family down is ridiculous, to be honest with you. Proper ridiculous. He's got levels to go up. I don't think he's ever going to be the next Ronaldo. Obviously, he's a young kid. He can have goals and he likes to, obviously his idol is Ronaldo. I don't think there's anything wrong in that. Do I think he's ever going to be a world beater? I don't think so. But I do think there's a lot of potential there. And I think that quote is way too far from Paul Parker, is what I'm going to try and say, to be honest with you. Lidlin Quality says Trincao was the best player on the pitch versus City. Yes, he was quality in that game. What I like about him is he's super agile and he gets around the pitch really well. He's always popping up in different places, really tidy with the football. We miss that in our team. Class of 99 says, some truth, Parker said, minus a family comment. Garner doesn't get any better than what we've already seen. We should sell him this summer along with Timu Haaland. I have said I would sell Garnacho in the summer, but I don't agree with the comments from Parker. I think they're a bit personal, a bit too below the belt. I think he's a hard worker. I just don't know if he's going to be good enough in this system. Sam Brock says, if Garner learned to get his head up and pass, he would be top. We need an experienced striker, most followed by a CM. Check out the definition on Beth's arms, though. Thank you very much. I've been trying to go to the gym in the start of 2025, and hopefully that is kind of showing through. David McCarthy says, Garner doesn't deserve this blasphemy. And Lee Cape Town says, the problem I have with people and pundits alike is that a new toy is better than what you have, but then the new toy is from an inferior league. Got them. I think I've got all the super chats in there. Jacob, thank you very much for your super chat as well. On the poll, who would you prefer, Trincao or Lookman? It's very, very, very close. You have 44% saying Lookman, and you have 56% saying Trincao. So it's super close. Again, Lookman, a little bit more money right now, but I think more people have probably seen him and know what he's about. Trincao, you've got that Amorim connection, and it's maybe a little bit riskier, but you're going to get him in at a cheaper price. I think Lookman's a better player. Personally, I think Lookman's a better player, but there's a lot of advantages for Trincao. First of all, as well, I think Portuguese players, I like their mentality. Portuguese players usually do well in the Premier League. Their mentality is usually top. They have a hunger to win. They're indestructible. I don't obviously touch wood, but Portuguese players, when do they ever get injured? Dalot, never injured. Bruno Fernandes, never injured. Like, there's more players that play for different teams that aren't barely injured than the Portuguese players. I like the Portuguese culture, and I like the mentality of players that come from that country. So that's another tick in that box, to be honest with you. But Lookman's already done it in the Premier League as well. Also, imagine if we do end up getting Osimhen. You imagine if Manchester United brought in I don't think we have the money to do this, but imagine if we brought in Lookman and Osimhen. That would absolutely transform our attack. You've got to think of the AFCON, obviously both Nigerian, and you're going to lose them at that point. But that partnership, I think, would be absolutely fantastic. Trincao's also played in the Premier League as well, played for Wolves, hasn't he? That was early on in his career, and I think he had the skill there, but he just probably didn't have the experience to go on and like absolutely smash the Premier League out the park. But he definitely had the skill and had the talent. But it's something to think about, and I like the fact they've both got a bit of experience. But let's talk a little bit about Chris Rigg, because I want to bring him into the show. We've got a lot to cover, so I want to get on with it. Chris Rigg. So this is coming in that Manchester United have placed Chris Rigg near the top of their list of targets for this summer and are already working hard to secure his signature. Rumours are that Tottenham Hotspur have already kind of floated around the idea of a £17 million bid. So Tottenham are interested. Tottenham are also interested in Tyler Diblin, which is a player that Manchester United are also scouting. Golby spoke about it last night, so I won't go into it in too much depth, but apparently United scouts are wowed by Tyler Diblin. They really like him. Southampton want around 40, but you're probably going to be able to get him cheaper because he's only got 2 years left on his deal, and Southampton are absolutely getting relegated. Chris Rigg is another one. I think is Tyler Diblin 19? Let me just check. Tyler Diblin's 19. Yes. He just turned 19, and Chris Rigg is 17. Chris Rigg also scored the match-winning goal for England's under-19s against Portugal in this international break. And everyone who I know who watches the Championship plays for Sunderland currently. Remember Ahmad's stint at Sunderland did him a world of good. Everyone who I know who watches the Championship absolutely raves about Chris Rigg. They also have Joe Bellingham, who has been linked to Manchester United before. I know there's people with Joe Bellingham think, is he just living off Jude Bellingham's name, or is he actually a really quality player? And people are saying, oh, you're just living off your brother's name because his brother is obviously one of the best players in the world, and you know, you're always going to get hit with that brush. Every time I've seen Joe Bellingham, I think he looks really good. I think he looks physical, and I think he's got a lot of potential. I think you've got to differentiate him between his brother, the two different players. But obviously he's at a different point in his career to what Bellingham is right now. And, you know, they're probably going to both have different journeys on their career, and we'll see where Joe Bellingham's career takes him. But he's definitely going to get snapped up soon. Crystal Palace were very interested in him as well. Chris Rigg, like I said, a lot of people I know who watch the Championship absolutely rave about him. But there is a big jump from the Championship to the Premier League. We've seen that in the teams that have come up this year. Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. All three of them are probably going to go back down. Like, there is a huge jump between the Championship and between the Premier League right now. And I do think that gap is probably one of the biggest it's ever been. So that's something you've got to consider. 17 years old, coming from the Championship and asking him to play for Manchester United well on a consistent basis is a big ask, and it's a huge amount of pressure. Don't get me wrong, I think there's talent there, and I think he's going to end up in the Premier League, and I think he probably will go on to have a good career. Like, you've got players that have come up from the Championship and done fantastically well. James Maddison's done well. There's so many more I can talk about. I mean, Jude Bellingham's obviously the big standout, but he's just like a once in a blue moon. He's absolutely phenomenal. Remember when everyone laughed at Birmingham for retiring his shirt, and like, look at what he's gone on and done. There is players that come from the Championship and do really well in the Premier League, young players as well. But 17 years old is young. We've already got, in my opinion, we've already got really good young players in our academy. Tyler Diblin is another one who looks super promising, really promising. And I know for a fact Manchester United are really interested. I think Ten Hag spoke about him when he was here. The scouts have been looking at Tyler Diblin for a while. 19. Do we need another young player? Like, everyone gets on Alejandro Garnacho's back for not making the right decision all the time and, you know, having that youthfulness where he's, you know, he's not always looking up and making the right pass, and sometimes he does dribble into players. Like Tyler Diblin, like, I'm not saying he's going to do that, but he's also not going to have that experience under his belt. I think Chris Rigg and Tyler Diblin go into the same boat for me. They're both Championship players because, let's be honest, Southampton are a Championship level team. But they're both going to be Premier League players, I think. Tyler Diblin definitely will be. He'll definitely get bought, I think, in the summer. The fact that Spurs are interested in both of these players, again, it's like, do I really trust Spurs recruitment as well in that way? But I think there'd be really good, interesting buys if we were at the level where, you know, of like a, I mean, they're not anymore, but of like a Man City, you know, when Man City were like fully functioning and had like the perfect 11, that's when I'd be looking at a Chris Rigg and a Tyler Diblin like, you know what, yeah, you're getting young players that have a very high ceiling that look like they've got a lot of potential. But Manchester United right now, we can't be, you know, potential FC. We can't be young player FC. We've got young players, we've got potential. We need to bring some in experience quality. That's what we need. If we're wanting to actually seriously compete, if this is like a, you know, a 5-6 year project, I understand it. And I get in the long term, it probably is going to be like a 5-year project. But I want Manchester United to be competing as soon as possible. And that's not me saying I want to go and get stopgap 30-year-olds. That's not the case. You can meet somewhere in the middle. You need a squad that has a mix of potential and a mix of experience where the young potential players can learn off the quality experienced players that are ready to take on the league and compete at high level. I think if we just go completely down the young route, you're not going to have that experience there to help these players develop, and development is key. Being able to take players on a journey is key. Being able to, you know, take a player from what, a £20 million player up to a £70 million player is important as well. So I like the look of Tyler Diblin, I like the look of Chris Rigg, but I would not be going for them in the summer if I was Manchester United. I would be focusing my money on experience. Like, I'm looking at Manchester United next season, I'm looking at a starting 11, and I'm looking, I think you need an Osimhen up top. I would love to go and get an Osimhen. And like I said, I rate Delap. I think Delap is a quality player. I know Manchester United are interested in him. If Ipswich get relegated, there's shouts that you could get Delap for around 40 million max. And he's proven it in the Premier League. He looks good, he's got a lot of potential. But again, it's another risky young signing. You get an Osimhen in, you know what you're getting. You're getting an experienced quality football player that's going to come in and going to score you goals. You pair that with like a Lookman or a Cunha or an Embuemo or even a Trincao. playing in the number 10 spots. You've brought in experience that are definitely going to take that team up a level. You're then looking around your midfield. Casemiro's probably going to depart. You're bringing in an experienced player, maybe not on massive money, that's just going to come in and kind of oversee that midfield and be that kind of squad player, maybe that's stepping in that Casemiro role. We're looking at a centre-back. Do you go for experience or do you go for young on a centre-back? I think you meet somewhere in the middle on the centre-back. I think you go for that 25, 26-year-old on the centre-back, down the centre-back route. There's areas of this Manchester United team where you need to bring some experience, and there's areas where you can afford to maybe go for a slightly younger player. But when you're looking at them front lines, for me, we've got to get players in that 100% are going to deliver, and there's not a huge amount of pressure on a young player's shoulders. Thank you everyone for all of your chats coming in and getting your opinions down in the poll. Simply Red says Garner's reached his ceiling already. I believe that. David McCarthy says Sam Box, who made that super chat, another blasphemy comment. He's our second top assister with 9 assists. But we need better. That's what I'm saying. We need better all across our front line. We need better. Like I've said, the only 2 players that I genuinely think are good enough to start in our front line if we're wanting to compete at the highest level right now are Ahmad and Bruno. Bruno's playing as a pivot player in the midfield and Ahmad's better as a wing back. Like, we need to improve. We're not scoring enough goals. Our goal difference is terrible. Like, we're scoring barely any goals in the league. We've got to be better all over the pitch, but especially in that front line. Thank you everyone for your comments and your chats coming in. Kipto says, what if we buy Rigg and then loan him out to Sunderland? Just a lot of messing about, to be honest with you. We've got a lot to do. We have got a lot to do. We need a striker. We need 1 number 10, arguably 2. We need a midfielder. We need a centre-back. We need a goalkeeper. And you could argue we need a right wing-back as well. Like, we're not going to get all of them. We've got a lot of positions to improve upon. That my focus will be improving the starting 11. Like I said, if we go into the start of next season with 3 certified, nailed-on starters that improve our starting 11, I would be pretty happy with that. I know we're on a budget, but I would so much rather get 3 players that I know are absolutely going to take that team up levels and are going to be starting for us that are quality than buy like 5 or 6 players where it's like, maybe they'll work, maybe they won't. I'd rather be a bit patient with it, personally. I think we'll buy at least 4 players, though, in the summer. I really do. I think we'll buy at least 4. But we've got to get it right. We cannot afford to get it wrong. Just a little bit more news to bring in. On Ahmad, it's coming in that Ahmad has made positive progress in his rehab over the past 2 weeks, focusing on strength and recovery. Manchester United aim to have him back on the pitch within the next month, with his recovery progressing ahead of schedule. So that's really good news. Manchester United are going to need him. Like I said, I think he's our best right wing back. I also think he's our best number 10. I think he's one of our best forward players. I think we've massively missed not having him. My only thing is, I hope we don't rush him back. I was speaking about this a little bit off air before. We need him back for them later stages of the Europa League. If we we've got to get past Lyon first, and then we've got to get past other teams as well. Athletic Club, which look really tough. But if we manage to get to that Europa League final, and even in the semi-final as well, we need someone like Ahmad who is a game changer, who can win your games. Don't rush him back too early. Make sure you get him back for them really important games that we have coming in toward the back end of the season. But that's some really good news coming out of the club. Also, we have a little bit on the centre-back that we potentially might sign. And this is coming in that Everton have previously rejected offers for Jarrad Branthwaite from Manchester United, but the Red Devils will return for the 22-year-old, who is also the topic of interest from Liverpool, Tottenham and Manchester City. So apparently there's a lot of interest in Jarrad Branthwaite. I'm very, very, very glad we didn't go for him last summer. When Everton were trying to pull our pants down for 70 million and we walked away and went and got Lenny Yoro and De Ligt instead, I'm very happy we did that. Very happy we did that. I mean, look at Aiden Heaven. We got Aiden Heaven for $1 million. And I know it's early days, but he looks quality. He looks absolute quality. There's no need to go and, just pour £70 million at Everton for Jarrad Branthwaite. There isn't. Jarrad Branthwaite looks like he's got a lot of potential. Again, potential. He's already doing it in the Premier League. I think him playing next to Tarkowski, an experienced Premier League centre-half, will have done in the world of good. I saw an interview with Tarkowski and he was speaking very highly of Jarrad Branthwaite. He's played with a lot of good centre-backs and he rates Jarrad Branthwaite very highly. Everton fans that I know, and I know quite a few Everton fans, really do rate him and really like him and think he's got the ability to go on to a top club in the Premier League. And I think he probably will end up going on to a top club in the Premier League. But he's going to be too expensive and I don't want to spend a lot of money on a centre-back this summer. Where I'm going to be spending the majority of my money is getting us goals within that front line. I think our defence is actually pretty good. And I think we could probably do with another centre-back with the injuries that we've had and the fact that Amorim plays with 3 centre-backs. But our depth in our defence, especially, our 3 centre-backs, I actually think is pretty good. I think we've got a few pretty good players there. Where I think our money should be focused on is that front line, personally. I also would love to go and... I mean, if Ahmad's going to be a right wing back, then we probably don't need to spend as much there. But the wide areas as well, like, you know, that's a really important part of Amorim's system. But I'm looking at our centre-backs. You've got Mazraoui, who for me is a wide centre-back in this system, and I think is his best position. I think he's great at it. He's such a good squad player to have, Mazraoui. Honestly, goes under the radar, but what he's managed to provide for us, considering, you know, the amount of games he's played... Mazraoui's been quality. So Mazraoui can play either side of the wide centre-backs and I think he's really good at that role. And he's a starter for me, even when everyone is fit, as probably the right-sided centre-back. You have Yoro, who can play either side as well. We know he can, and he's got a lot of potential and he's really kind of come into his own. I was really gutted when Yoro got injured because he was really kind of picking up some form and looking like he was really settling in. You've got Aidan Heaven, who can play on the left side, who looked really good in that small sort of game time that we saw him in, but didn't put a foot wrong and looked quality. You've got De Ligt and Maguire, who can both play them central centre-back roles. And you've got Lisandro Martinez, who can play on that left side as well. I know he's had injury issues and he is out, but hopefully he'll come back and we'll get him back and he's probably Amorim's starter there if, you know, he can get back fit and remain fit. So we've got players who can play there. Lindelof is going to go and we're probably going to want to replace him. We are going to want to replace Lindelof as a centre-back. He's going to go on a free. But we don't need to go and spend a massive amount of money on a centre-back. We bought De Ligt last year. We bought Yoro last year. That was a big chunk of money we spent on centre-backs. We can go get a centre-back in, but why don't we go and do what we did with like an Aidan Heaven? Go and get, you know, go and scout a player who isn't much money and it's got, you know, got something about him and we can kind of work into that first team. I don't think we need to go and splash £60 million on Jarrad Branthwaite. I really don't. That's not where my focus would be. People talking about Luke Shaw. I don't class him as a United player. I don't actually class him as a United player anymore because he's just never going to be fit. So you can talk about Luke Shaw being a left-sided centre-back all you want, but it's just not going to happen, is it? It's really not. Also, last little bit of news as well. Lyon's Malik Fofana will be out of action for 3 weeks with a knee injury and will therefore miss the first leg of the Europa League quarter-final against Manchester United on April the 10th. Malik Fofana for Lyon, doing a little bit of background work on him. They've only got 4 players, Lyon, who can play in the 3 behind the striker. So without him, they do lack a bit of depth. I mean, some would say Matic is due to have an absolute masterclass in that midfield against us playing for Lyon. Ricky can't actually wait. He's well excited to go over to Lyon and go and see Matic. He loves him. Absolutely loves him. But yeah, so that is a big loss for Lyon, Malik Fofana, because they play 3 in behind the forward and they only have 4 players that can do that. So I'm just kind of looking at it now. They have, let me get it up here. They've only got 4 players who can play in the 3 behind the striker. They've got Cherki, who I know a lot of people are going to be watching with eagle eyes when we play Lyon. A lot of football tacticos on Twitter want us to sign Cherki. Like I said, I've not seen enough of him to comment. I'm excited to watch us against Lyon. I really am, to see what he's all about. You've also got Almada. You've also got Malik Fofana. And Malik Fofana is going to be out for injury, so he's not available anymore. And you've got Ernest. Oh, that name scares me. Ernest Nuama. I think I'm saying that right. Who also plays there. So, you know, Matic might have to might have to get higher up the pitch and put on a bit of a masterclass. The Duke says, Houston is also one that we should be going for in the future. I've seen us linked to him multiple times. Again, I'm kind of steering away from the future players right now. I am super focused on bringing in some experience. I mean, I was speaking to our graphics guy, Matt, before, and I said, Matt, you know what? No one asks you who he watches the show every single day. He's doing graphics for the United Stand constantly. We're always talking in the group chat about who we want to sign in the summer, who we think's good enough. Everyone's got different opinion. Me and Goldbridge were having a bit of a back and forth on Garnacho in the what do you call it? In the dressing room, in the Dublin live show. He was saying, I think Garnacho can be this, and I said, I think he's reaching his ceiling, to be honest with you. I think he'd be better in a 4-3-3. And everyone always gets their opinions in, but I said, Matt, who would you like to bring in the summer? Like, I want to know your opinion. You're always watching the shows. And he said, to be honest with you, I think the main thing for me is a striker that is over the age of like 24, 25, like actually has some experience in him and can lead that line. And I think it's super important. Højlund did well to get his goal for Denmark. And, he's got a goal for Manchester United, but people get carried away. It's 2 goals after how long in a massive goal drought? Højlund's got potential. Again, that word. Take a shot every time I say potential in the show. But I think sometimes as fans we get too excited over a short spell of good form. We need consistency over the course of a season. What players for Manchester United actually give you consistency over the course of a season? That's what we need. What players over the course of a Premier League season are playing consistently well? You're going to get at least a 7 out of 10 from them every single week. Name them. I think Ahmad is one. I think Bruno is one. I think Ugarte is one. I think Mazraoui is one. I think De Ligt's one. But I'm looking towards them forward players, and again, it is lacking. And this is why Manchester United are lacking goals. And you look towards, the top end of the table and the attacking players that the other teams have to pick from and what they're delivering you week in, week out. And Manchester United, it's something we have to focus on in the summer. But look, everyone, thank you very much for watching the show. Hit a like on the video if you've not already. That's all of the news that was coming in this morning. Just going to quickly see if there's anything more that I should have brought in here. I've just seen this. Okay. So again, this is where Manchester United, we have to spend right this summer because we're going to fall further and further behind. FIFA, this is from Ben Jacobs, FIFA confirmed the Club World Cup winner will receive $125 million. The participation prize pool is $525 million. UEFA entrants to receive the most and variable fee based on ranking and revenue. The range is between $12.81 million to $38.19 million. Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid and Bayern to get the top end. It's actually crazy. So if you win it, you can get $125 million. Imagine if Chelsea, Man City win that. Again, you're miles ahead in terms of FFP and being able to invest in the summer. Manchester United are proper up against it in terms of PSR and FFP. And I know people complain about these extra competitions, but that money would have massively helped Manchester United if we could have been in that Club World Cup. I kind of don't want to be in it because I want to see Amorim get a full pre-season and I do want our players to get a break. But it's a lot of money you can get and you can invest in. And that can say, there's people talking about selling. By the way, if I'm saying I'm selling Garnacho or I'm selling Amenu, which I'm not saying, I'm not doing it because I'm thinking that's pound signs coming my way. With Garnacho, it's one of them where you do happen to get a really good amount of money in for him in pure profit if you do sell him. And he's one of them where people are kind of on the edge of whether he's actually going to make it under Amorim or whether he's not. And Mainu might be going into that category because no one's got a defined position for him. He's been injured for a while and people will probably not remember him how good he actually is and how much of a quality football player he is. But Manchester United, beside the point, might be forced into selling one of them players this summer. And a lot of fans won't want to do that because they are young talent that have come through our academy. We shouldn't have to do that. That could be the difference between having to do that and not having to do that. And United only have themselves to blame. Our finances have been just the way we have handled transfers and money at this club in the Glazer ownership has just been absolutely horrendous. But I'm going to end up going on a tangent. But what I'm saying is the money that these clubs could get again, could put them way ahead of us in terms of being able to do more in the transfer market. And again, you're going into another season where all these teams have a head start. The Duke says, Euro Heaven, Hulson will be good players moulded into the new era. No bad habits formed yet. No attitude, no entitlement. The team has a ton of experience. Well, I think Amorim, the main thing he is focused on is attitude, mentality, behaviour. So I definitely think anyone that comes into this football club, we're going to do our background on, do our homework on, and Amorim will be the first one to do that. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit a like on the video if you've not already. Thank you everyone for getting involved. Super interactive this morning. Really do love the convo, love the chat, and I'm so excited for the transfer window in this summer. Obviously, we've still got the season to go yet. We've got the Europa League to go out there and win, but the summer transfer window is going to be a massive one. Them number 10 spots, I'm really interested to see who we go and buy on that. There's so many different players we could go for. Striker as well. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. Hit a like on the video if you're not already. Have a lovely Wednesday, and I will see you on the next one.